primarily those needs deal with questions about the future of kids. Where do they go? What do they do? How can I tell? Well, you're in the right place then, because there's others who don't know that too. So, we're here to talk about those things. We'll spend a little time on an introduction here. Then I'm going to ask, teachers who are present who teach high school credit classes. We're focusing primarily on those today. To say just a word or two about their class, about their expectations, about what they try to accomplish with your children academically and non-academically. And then we'll take a look at some test scores and talk about Running Start in the future and try to answer any questions that you have. Keeping in mind that there's always uncertainties and there's always different kids, there's different situations, and how does it play out, and none of us has that crystal ball. Just do the best we can with the information that we have, and that's what today is about. So quickly, there's just some background information on Home Connection and its credit and core classes. Here's some general information for you. If you hadn't bumped into this, the first is my personal pet peeve. I know I've said it a million times, but I'm not done, just so you know. Please notice the purpose. Please notice the purpose. Parents started this thing that we're talking about today. School staff did not. I remember the day well when I was sitting in my office and there was a knock at the door and there were some parents there. They said, "Buddy, we need to talk." And they were right. And we did. 18 years. Next year will be the 10th year of having a high school program as such. It will be year 10. Some enrollment numbers. You'll notice a lot of those numbers, I'll just tell you, at the high school level, you can look for grade 9 and 10 and 11. Those numbers have stayed pretty constant. I can tell you that 6th, 7th, and 8th grade has grown quite a bit in recent years. And I can tell you that K-5 is just kind of a slow pattern of consistent growth over the years. That's kind of how it goes. That's the pattern. We are, as of March, the last month, I haven't seen this latest figures, but we're as big as we've ever been. Staff-wise, we're going to get even a little bit larger next year. You can see how many kids access Running Start through Home Connection. About 75 to 80% of our students leave Home Connection at the end of 10th grade and successfully matriculate their way through Running Start. Or by parent request and parent design. Pre-Running Start. Even our schedule is very collegiate. All right, after that introduction, let's hear a word or two from our teachers. Mrs. Walker, I believe that you were requested to go first. Not all of our teachers were able to be here. This was called you pick an afternoon and you do the best you can and you don't bat 1,000. So Mrs. Walker teaches Spanish 1, 2, and 3 and has now for,
I think, completing 6 years.
6 years. The floor is yours.
Okay. My name's Tana Walker, and I want you all to know that the Spanish class, especially Spanish 1 as you are entering, is really equivalent to high school. Even though it's open to middle school students, it's a high school class, and it's treated as such. Age is not as important as kind of a natural ability. I've seen kids as young as 6th grade really excel in my class. It is not age, it is just, are you able musically? Are you able, mathematically? It's just one of those niches that you kind of just have. I would not recommend it if your student is a struggling reader. The vowels all make different sounds. It would just be burdensome if they're not already a fairly strong reader. My classes are not the immersion classes, which you will find at the high school, nor are they the very academic and collegiate classes that you'll find at Skagit Valley. I really try to kind of straddle that, those two areas, because some of our kids go to the high school and they need to be successful there, and some of them go to Running Start and they need to be successful there as well. So we found that as a very good middle ground. My overall goal, besides having them excel in Spanish, is that they become lovers of learning foreign languages. And that is my overall goal. It would not be uncommon for these kids to, at some point, be told, you know what, we'd love to transfer you over here, but you're going to need to learn French. Or you can get a promotion, but you need to learn Japanese. And I would hate for that to be, you know, a barrier for someone that they think, oh yeah, I did that, I can do that again. I would also love them to be learning and appreciating culture and gaining insight into Hispanic culture as well as our own. Questions?
Spanish 1, 2, and 3.
1, 2, and 3. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about homework requirements?
There is homework required almost every night.
You mean 5 nights a week, or you mean that for your 2 days?
For my, yes, yes. I try not to get a lot of labor-intensive homework from Monday to Tuesday, but you will have it on, you know, the Tuesday to Thursday, and you will have it from Thursday to Monday as well. Yeah.
I just noticed on the core sheet, Spanish 3 isn't on there. Is it going to be offered next year?
I'm expecting it'll be offered. I double-checked with my Spanish 2, and there are 8 students, barring scheduling conflicts.
Okay.
We're planning on it.
Okay.
Excuse me.
If your child is a struggling reader, then when would you suggest that they would go into it if it is required to graduate?
When they are not struggling. It's just that the letters, if they're struggling with learning to read in English, the letters are going to make different sounds when you know, introduce Spanish to them. The E's sound like A's, you know, the I's sound like E's. It's just, I found it very challenging for kids if they're not kind of strong already.
All right, anybody else? Questions for Mr. Walker? Mr. Walker, thank you for
You
fitting
bet.
us into your afternoon. We appreciate it
Thank you.
very, very much. Let's take a little look, maybe Mr. Ross, let's take a little look at science. Maybe you can speak to science. You're certainly been in the science program for a length of time, and you teach SSI, which is the 9th grade science course, if you will. Some 8th graders take it as well.
Students need 2 science credits to graduate.
Can you move in front of the camera? I know that there's a lot that aren't here. They're going to want to see your
I'll stand by you.
Okay. Oh, thanks.
So students need 2 science credits in our district to graduate from high school, if that's what they're after, is a graduation diploma. You can get those classes here. You can also get the classes at Skagit. We offer SSI, which is 8th, 9th grade science. We offer biology, and we offer chemistry. And there's many courses you can take at Skagit likewise to fulfill those 2-year requirements for high school Spanish. There's a great form on our website that shows all of the corresponding courses you can meet to get your 2 years of science or English or math at Skagit. So if you'd like to sit in our classes for a year, that's certainly a possibility, or you can take courses up there if that's the way your child is headed. I've led a lot of kids in 8th grade science. I need a good recommendation from the 8th grade, 7th grade science teacher. They're a good worker, that they check wings often and follow directions real well, real punctual with their homework. Those types of students do okay. And Bridget, you're 8th grade, right? I wouldn't know it. I mean, you're really good with your work habits and ask questions and all that good stuff.
Did you say that they do well and they do okay in SSI?
Yeah, they can, yeah. That's certainly a possibility. Then they'd be freed up in 9th grade to take biology, and then freed up in 10th grade to take chemistry with us. Our classes go for a full year, where at Skagit they're 9 weeks. So 9 weeks compared to 36 weeks is quite a difference, especially for kids that, kids like to have a little longer pace to get their work done. But it's quick, boy, my daughter's taking geology, man, you're doing a lot of work. All right.
Mrs. Wilson, care to add anything? Okay, all right, let's go on with math. Suzie,
All right,
would be you.
Stand over in there.
I will stand here so people that aren't here can see me on. So kind of like being behind the table better. I teach pre-algebra, algebra 1, and algebra 2. Pre-algebra is not a high school credit class, so students that are taking pre-algebra as 9th graders are not getting high school credit for that math class. So we do have students that have gifts in other subject matter, and so they aren't advanced in their math, and which is fine because I enjoy math, but there are plenty of other subjects that I would be a little lower in and not interested in taking history. And anyway, if your child is already in my pre-algebra class or algebra 1 or geometry, there's no placement test. They continue on to the next level as long as they are passing with a 70% or better. So any child that is already in a math class or has already taken something with me, the natural flow of math is to take pre-algebra, which pre-algebra is an optional course, but very highly recommended as a prep to get them ready for algebra 1. Algebra 1, then geometry, and then algebra 2. I do have students that skip geometry and go straight from algebra 1 to algebra 2. I don't recommend that because geometry is a great subject that helps solidify their algebra skills. Some students don't like geometry, but I know, I see your face over there. But it's really good at helping them build on their algebra skills. And so I would highly recommend that anyone that has taken algebra 1 moves right into into geometry and then into algebra 2. After algebra 2, the options they have are to take pre-calculus with Mr. Norman, or they can head over to the high school or do something independently, or at that point, typically they're in 11th grade and running start. They can, if they have successfully completed algebra 2 with a C or better, which is a 73% or better, then they can go into one of 3 levels of math at the college. The college wants them to take the compass just so they can compare their compass score to their success in that class, but it's not mandatory that they pass that compass test if they have taken algebra 2 with me. And the reason why we have that agreement with Skagit is because I use the same textbook that they use for intermediate algebra. It's the same course, different name. But they do have to pass it successfully here at Home Connection in order to. And the other requirement is that when they do that and they choose running start, they have to take that math class one of the first 2 quarters, so fall or winter. If they wait until spring, then they don't get a free ride in. They have to take the compass and pass it. And it's not that the compass is so hard they can't pass it, but it is an interesting test. And so it's nicer. That's just a nice way to put it. But it's nice, you know, I've had plenty of students pass the compass test and go straight into math and not have trouble with the compass. But I think that's about it. You know, math class meets 3 times a week. I would love if it could meet 4 times a week, but that just doesn't work with the scheduling. And we get through pretty much the whole book in each class. The Algebra 2 book is a little bit longer, and so we struggle with getting all of the material in. So we do the parts that I find the most important. And if you're interested, you can always finish up the chapter that we don't finish on your own. But, and placement testing for pre-algebra and algebra is coming up on May 8th. Any questions?
If they're in
That is right now, that is the normal track. 8th graders are in Algebra 1.
And do they receive the high school credit for that?
Yes, but you have to fill out the paper to opt in for that credit.
Do you have to do that at the beginning of the year?
At the end of the year. You can do it at any time in their high school career. So you have until they're seniors really to choose that. It's better to do it right away, like when the course is finished, so you don't forget. And as a credit, you have the option of whether you want their grade to be counted in their GPA. So, like with my daughter didn't want to count hers. I don't remember what her percent was, but it wasn't a perfect A, I don't think. And so she figured, well, I'll just wait, and then, you know, if all my grades are really great, then I don't want that to pull me down, you know. But if they have an A, then sure, count it for their GPA, because it helps.
Did you just say they could count the credit but not the grade?
Yes. Yep, as 8th graders, they have the option of not counting the grade on their transcript.
As 7th graders too?
Yes. I think 7th grade, you in 7th grade, yeah. Any other questions?
Yes, I do. If they're taking math with Mr. Norman this year, do they still have to take the pre-algebra entrance
Nope.
to get in with you?
No. So 6th grade math is the same. Any 6th grader that has passed into 6th grade will move as long as they have successfully passed 6th grade with 70% or better, will move directly into pre-algebra. So placement testing is only for brand new students.
That's caused a little consternation and misunderstanding with a few people over the years. We don't have a 7th grade math. It goes 6th grade math, pre-algebra, algebra 1, just to make sure. Second thing I'll add, if I may talk quite a bit about the compass test, a little bit about history, as I recall. Anyways, the compass test, the latest information we have on the compass test, which is a little bit old, but I think is unchanged, and that is roughly 1 out of every 20 students that takes the compass math test passes it and gains entrance into college level math. Those numbers include home connection kids, and home connection students are over 50% that take that test pass it. But she alluded to the fact that there seems to be a discrepancy between how difficult and what that test expects and the level of math that you need to be successful at college level. Mr. Ross's own son Nathan, as I recall, is a great example of that. Nathan took the test, did not pass it, but had done so well in high school math that they kind of gave him an exception. He went in and pretty much aced all of his college math after not passing the entrance exam. So kind of makes you wonder a little bit, and Miss Izzy was alluding to that wondering.
But it's not required if they've completed algebra.
If they have successfully completed Algebra 2 with a C or better, which is a 73%.
They have to take a math course at the college then within the
Yeah.
first 2 semesters.
Yes, first 2 quarters. They wait until spring quarter of their first year and running starts.
What math do they go into?
There are 3 choices. One is called Math and Society, which is 107. The next one is Pre-Calculus, which is 141. And then I can't remember if it's like business statistics or something, it's 140.
On the form, I forget, we
Yeah.
can look it up for you.
Yeah. Can I add something about Spanish too?
As long as it's not about history, it's fine.
Yeah, no, just because I've been thinking, when Mrs. Walker was talking about Spanish, Spanish is not required for high school graduation, so it fits under electives in high school graduation, but a language is required by some colleges and universities. So what you need to do as families is look up different schools that your child may potentially be interested in going to, because you know that when they're 8th graders. But look at schools that they're actually thinking of, what their dreams are, and look at that school's requirements on whether they require 2 years of a language before entrance or 3 years. Yeah, so you really need to know if your child is university bound, you're almost guaranteed that they are required to take a language, to have that language before they enter. So that, I have an 18-year-old who's a senior this year, and she did take French at the high school, and she met the requirements she needed. But it is not a graduation requirement, so a lot of people don't take a language because they don't have to. But depending on what your child plans on for their future, I would just help them look into that.
Can I also
so
say
they're aware.
too, if you take Spanish at Skagit, it fulfills your college requirement for language. So you might want to make sure you know what school they're going to, because we squeezed in Spanish 3 years of it at Skagit, and it checked off the college requirements at $500 a course compared to however much it cost at a 4-year school. Plus, it gets your high school Spanish out of the way too. That's the magic about Skagit. If they can really handle it, boy, you're getting 2 things done at once. It's
All right, let's move on. Just a quick, oh, I'm sorry. one
I
more.
just wanted to actually piggyback with algebra, I like that Matt piggyback on Spanish and
Yeah.
science. If your student wants to go into chemistry, you really, really, really need to be strong in their algebra. There are a lot of algebraic manipulations that are done in chemistry, and so I highly encourage that.
So I have a question about chemistry then. Okay, so my question is, has anybody done a comparison? Like, do you have a feel for Skagit chemistry, home connection chemistry, high school chemistry? I know that's a hard question to answer, but I know you visited the high school recently to look at probably labs more than anything, but does anybody have a feel for a comparison?
For me, this is my first year teaching
Yeah.
high school chemistry.
Yeah.
I taught college chemistry. And so I can't sing the praises of my students enough. They are just rocking awesome. I've thrown a whole lot of college stuff with them, and they are just beautifully. Can't sing their praises enough. Okay, with regards to facilities, we are challenged because we don't have a fume hood here. But, and I think I told you that they have a fume hood over at the high school, but they only use it to store chemicals because they only have one fume hood, and they can't do experiments in it because they're just too many students.
Which I have to say, I asked my daughter who is in chemistry there now, and she says they do use it. She says they do.
Interesting.
They do
That's what
gather
it means.
around and they use it. So
Maybe he just thought it, he just
that's
didn't
kind
think
of-
about it at the time. I mean, we spent not a whole lot of time together,
Yeah.
so in all fairness, maybe that just kind of, maybe after the fact, we went, oh, wait, no, we did it, except true, in all fairness. I don't know what kind of experiments they do over there. We didn't, Mr. Thayer and I didn't have an opportunity to talk about that. He was extremely gracious, and they were very welcoming. The robotics class too was welcoming and open for our students to participate in the robotics club if they were interested. So there's a good hope that there might be a partnership that could develop there.
And what do you think about chemistry at Skagit? What if our kids decide, not to do chemistry here, they hold off?
That's an option, and we dealt with that back in 2005, 2006, we had that.
Because it is an option, right, not to do chemistry here, but to do
Sure.
Skagit.
Absolutely.
And I wonder how that.
So let me segue for that just into something that I think is really critical and important to all understand. 6th grade English, 7th grade English, 8th grade English, 9th grade English, 10th grade English, 6th grade history, 7th grade history, 8th grade history, 9th grade history. Those 2 subjects go, and they're even basically named by grade level. Math and science are discrepant from that. So if you want to do the normal sequence in math and science, there kind of is one, but there really isn't necessarily one. And when you take pre-algebra, when you take Algebra 1, sets in place scheduling conflicts or restrictions or limitations depending on when you do it. And the same thing is true of science classes. So science and math both. In the middle school, high school handbook are color-coded options for you as a parent. My 6th grader needs Algebra 1, they're ready for it. Fine, I'm going to sign them up, fine. But understand what that means down the road. You've had 5th graders take Algebra 1, it's happened. You've had 6th graders and 7th graders. Consult the color-coded schedules in the middle school, high school handbook located on our webpage. Study those, learn those, and see what they say. We're going to move on to Mrs. Fed in English right now. Pretty please, Mrs. Fed. No.
Am I speaking to the 6th
11th grade?
7th through 9th grade parents.
Yes, so I don't teach 7th grade, so I can only speak to what
But
Mrs.
they would be
Solomon-
going into 8th grade next year.
Oh, cool, hey, so we're going into 8th grade, and I have, so basically 8th grade English is a transitional year between the 7th grade Shirley English grammar to the 9th grade kind of expected that they've mastered grammar. And so 8th grade is this transition time where I don't do Shirley English, so if you love Shirley English, you are going to be moved away from the predictability of those worksheets, and we work with more just hands-on life application grammar. And so the idea is that by 9th grade, I stop teaching grammar, and that they've mastered it, and then we can work on other skill sets. No textbooks in my 8th grade class. I use them very minimally, if at all, and so if it's something that you like for predictability, that's going to be a challenge. Mostly in the 8th grade, we talk about critical reading skills, comprehension skills, communication skills. And so we get people started with short stories and the writing, and they really get invested because they love short story writing. It's creative, and that's great. And then all of a sudden, I switch it on them, and we do different genres of writing. And so they're familiar with with creative writing, and I make them do critical writing. So we do argumentative essays. We do a lot of nonfiction texts and read them as short pieces. And then we read a couple of novels. One is Inkheart. We're currently we just finished Red Magic Courage, for those of you, her son loves it. And then we're doing Diary of Anne Frank right now, and we end with Miss and Red Street. And so a lot of these are based around the text, and we just build up critical reading skills. Critical, everything is critical. Everything is really focused on projects, so very collective assignments. Not many things stand by themselves, they build to a larger progression. And so I tend to be that way. 9th grade, 8th grade is not for credit, so 8th grade is a good year to, if you feel like your child's not ready for a lot of pressure, then 8th grade is a good place to go. 9th grade, everything is for credit, so whatever is on the transcript is what is going to get on the high school transcript for that. The emphasis is away from grammar, more on critical writing. So you're taking those critical reading skills that you learned in 8th grade, and you're going to take them to critical writing. We do refined grammar, so find the paragraph, find the errors, and fix my previous year's papers and make them better, essentially. We do debate, we do the Odyssey, we tend to do a lot of short story analysis. Let's see. A lot of communication, Socratic seminars, a lot of evaluating each other's work. And then finally, we do a couple of units with the 9th grade history. And so we do World War I and World War II, and we work together with the two classes. So if you are in History 9, but you're not in English 9, you will get the assignments that we're doing together as a collective, and vice versa. If they're in English but not in history, they will be doing it. But if you feel...
Can you say that again?
Okay, so like for instance, History 9 and English 9, we work together for about 3 months. And so we do everything together. And but if you're in one class or the other and you're worried about like this is going to make sense, we catch them as they go. But the problem is that some people are in History 9 now and English 8, and so they're going to get the same assignments over and over again. So just kind of beware of that. Is if you're thinking about pacing, English 8 and English 9 is going to do the same thing if they take both Powers and myself. Any questions? Yes.
What about your 10th grade English class? My daughter is in your class.
Yes.
And she enrolled in the second semester.
Mm-hmm.
So where does that put her next year? Because she got half a semester of her 10th grade year. She's 9th grade. So what does that put her next year?
So you're talking about credit-wise.
Well, credits are based off of 75 hours of your instructional area of content. And so we have options to fill the gaps, as it were, but they're going to be either from your at-home instruction, or we have online program through Aventa that can do credit retrieval. But otherwise, if the person, like, it's Alyssa, okay, so if Alyssa is at 10th grade English and she is doing well credit-wise, she's filled all the, checked up all the boxes, then we don't have a technical next step. It's usually running start students. So come 10th grade in the spring, I send my little birdies off to college and they tend to do okay. But currently I have an 11th grade course and it's based on just anybody who enrolls. And so I do have an 11th grade course. I have 4 students in it, and it is an option. But it's based on inquiry only. We don't necessarily offer it every year. So does that answer your question?
She'll be entering the 10th grade next year.
She's not.
She's not we've been doing homeschooling.
Right.
So she finished all of her 9th grade work,
So she has credit for 10th grade or 9th grade English?
all of it,
Okay, and then she has credit for 10th grade English?
half a semester.
Half a semester, and then she would do a credit retrieval either at home or on Aventa, and then she would be fine. If you're thinking of just continuing the track, then you would inquire about 11th grade course for next year, and if there's enough people to put it together. What is the minimum, Mr. Val?
Well, I'll tell you what, this is kind of a personal one, so
Yeah,
I think a good solo conversation would be great in this instance, if you don't
Correct.
mind. There's options, and we'll gladly look at those.
right.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yes.
Entrance testing for 9th grade.
The entrance test, if your child is in 8th grade English, then they automatically go into 9th grade. And that's true of all the levels. The only one that we require for everybody is 6th grade English. And so everyone goes through. If any time someone takes a break or, has a gap of 1 semester, then we require retesting. And so and that's May 8th as well. And so we're going to be doing it the same day as math, so you can come in and get it done.
Or if they wash out of 8th grade English, then they have to retest
yes.
also. Yeah.
Correct, and that's for those who got the 3 N's in your out policy. And so if they got 3 N's and they're gone from the previous year, they have to retest to go into the sequence.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Stead. Mr. Hall, Fit for Life, care to?
If I may defer to any ed partner so that they can leave if they so choose.
There's only you and I left, sir.
Okay. I definitely want to talk about Fit for Life. Well, Mr. Hall, Steve Hall, by the way. And before I talk about Fit for Life, I want to mention history. So I have 8th grade history.
So this is only 9th grade if we can for today. So we're
What's only
leaving it
9th grade?
9th grade courses faces the focus today.
Oh, well, let me put these down. So at 9th grade level, there's, well, high school in general, there's 2 PE credits required for high school graduation.
Mr. Hall, can I change my mind? Washington State history and how that works and functions causes so many questions and stuff that I think it would be valuable if you do what
So
you.
where would you like me to start, Mr.
Talk briefly about 8th grade history and then how Washington State history fits into that whole picture, because there's always questions about it. So, thank you.
So very briefly, I start my year with U.S. history at grade 7, 8, middle school. We start with colonization, we go up through Civil War. And then students pick up Reconstruction, the current history in our 10th grade U.S. history class. It changed gears 4th quarter, which is actually this week. We switched from U.S. history to Pacific Northwest history. And this is look at the textbook that we use. Pacific Northwest history is a course that's required for high school graduation. There's no credit assigned to it. It's more or less a check in the box. So we offer the course pass-fail, which means it doesn't affect the student's GPA one way or another. It's GPA neutral. Students, my class generally doubles. When I add this course, I went from 8 to 10 students to like 19 now. And I have to keep a careful eye on my textbooks because they're out of print. They're no longer available. We spend a lot of time searching out these books. So if I happen to have one of your students in class, please remind them that these books are precious to me and take good care of them. It's a quick whirlwind tour of Pacific Northwest history. It covers Washington, Idaho, and Oregon. And I only have the students 2 days a week. You can do the math, 2 weeks, 2 days a week, 9 weeks. That's 18 class sessions. We do presentations, we do projects, we do papers, we do a ton of reading. The reading can be somewhat challenging. There's a lot of content in history as there would be in science. And oftentimes the kids have to read it 2 or 3 times to comprehend it all. Even I have to do that. I teach it every year. So it can be somewhat challenging for the average reader, as opposed to this guy, this Teaching of Us series, which is very homeschool friendly. It's like a low 6th grade readability, and he offers a great storytelling. So whether you take this course, have your student take this course next year, or do it on your own, it's a great book. Questions?
The check in the box is required for high school
High
graduation?
school graduation. And interesting enough, this course is not offered at Skagit. And in history in general, to graduate from high school, you need both U.S. history at the high school level as well as world history. We offer both the U.S. history and the world history at the high school level. Currently, the U.S. history is an online course. It used to be an in-seat class, but right now, for the time being, it's an online course at grade 9 and 10. And then the world history course is offered by Mrs. Powers, who's not here today. And then I'll throw in 2 other courses that are required for high school graduation because we don't currently teach them here. But that would be American government and modern world problems. Interesting enough, you can pick up both modern world problems and American government at the college and get that dual credit, both high school and college credit. Whereas the U.S. history and the world history you cannot pick up at the college.
Either one of them?
What?
Say that again.
Cannot pick up U.S. history or world history at the college. They don't currently offer those. So that's really important to them.
I think they do, Steve.
What?
They do.
Do you mean Northwest or
Not that I'm
US
aware of.
history?
They offer government, American government, they offer the world problem, modern world problems, but they do not offer U.S. history or, that I'm aware of,
Okay.
or the world history.
Hmm.
Can I ask a question about the Pacific Northwest history? It's a high school requirement, but is it a requirement for a running start diploma?
Is what a
Is it a
requirement?
state requirement?
I'm
It's
sure,
a
I don't know what
district
the question
requirement.
was, I didn't.
Pacific Northwest history.
If you get a diploma through the college, you don't have to take that.
Is that because it's not a state requirement, but this is a high school district requirement?
I guess I'm not positive of why it is. They just don't offer it there, and you can certainly go there and get a high school, Washington State High School diploma at Skagit Valley College without taking Pacific Northwest history.
Okay, that's good to
And
know.
as we speak, there are actually changes in terms of the requirement for Washington State history at the state level. I don't have my head totally wrapped around what those changes are, but there are changes in the work as maybe it's not going to be required anymore on the district level. But yeah, if you're earning your high school diploma simultaneously with your 2-year degree, there's no requirement for Washington State history.
That's important to know.
So world history is required to graduate, but it is not offered here?
Here's the-
Offered.
World history is offered here.
Oh,
Mrs.
okay.
Powers offers the course.
Okay.
And it is required for high school graduation. There are 2 high school level history credits that are required, world history and U.S. history. If you're wanting to receive a high school diploma from your local district,
Okay.
there's U.S. history, world history, modern world problems, and American government.
And those are all required to graduate from high school?
Yes.
Okay. So where would you access the world history or American government and world problems if you're not going to do Running Start?
You can do it as an independent course of study, work with your advisor
Okay.
to help with that. And I believe, Mr. Mao, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe at one point you were going to be the go-to person to help set that course for anything in the area district.
That certainly is possible, but again, obviously, you can take it at Skagit. Or if the student gets done with 10th grade here and goes to one of our area high schools, they can get those courses generally there also.
Also, if there is enough interest, I mean, I taught modern world problems a few years back. If there's enough interest, we could certainly rethink that for students at 10th or 11th grade that have finished their history. I think I had 6 or 7 students in that class. Good. Okay, PE, 2 required PE credits for high school graduation. The very first of those courses is called Fit for Life, whether you take it at Oak Harbor High School or here. It's a prerequisite course to any other course that one would take. Now the caveat is that you could do independent PE credit with your students. You don't need to take Home Connections Fit for Life class. We can pretty much mirror anything that the local high school offers. For example, I know for a fact that at Oak Harbor High School you can take walking. We call it Walking 101. So with your work with your advisor, if you wanted to set up an independent course for Walking 101, create a course goal for your student learning plan, you may do so. And you simply, as Mrs. Federighi pointed out, we use the Carnegie unit of credit, which is 75 hours per half credit. So you would simply create a course, keep track on some kind of a record form, the level of activity that your student is completing, and any other requirements, along with any other requirements that your advisor may request of you. In the Fit for Life class, I don't give unit tests. We cover things like volleyball and soccer and basketball. And I don't provide unit tests at the end, but I ask the kids to write a paper, a 2 to 3 page double-spaced type paper with references related to any area of physical PE that they're interested in, along with a fitness plan. I teach them how to create a fitness plan, and then I call it good. And then, of course, attendance is very crucial. We meet 3 days a week. The other 2 days, the students are required to do activity on their own, and they track it, and then they turn it to me at the end of each month. And I count it as part of their participation rate. For students returning second semester, I have many students that are returning second semester. They've completed the Fit for Life class. We just give it a separate course title, like competitive team sports or something like that, and goes on the transcript under a different title. We cannot repeat the Fit for Life for a second half credit. But if they're with me the entire year, they're earning one of those PE credits. I've had students that come back the next year, and they repeat the same units. And we give it another creative course title, and they get their 2 credits of PE complete.
Do you know how it works if they participate in a sport in the high school? I think PE credits can be waived.
If they're participating in a sport at the school, the PE requirement is waived. So all of a sudden, that 2 credits that you needed is gone. But you still need those 2 credits to graduate. And I believe right now, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Ross, I think each school district sets its number of credits. The state says it's 19 credit minimum. Oak Harbor's, I think it went from 23 to 24. So even though those PE credits, those 2 PE credits have been waived for your sport, you still have to have those 2 credits applied somewhere else to total that 24 credits.
And are
Good question.
those 2 credits are just required at Oak Harbor High School for PE, or if they did Running Start, would they also have PE credits required? And does Fit for Life count towards a Running Start completion? You know?
Okay, so you asked a bunch of things here.
Okay, so two
Sorry.
PE credits are required. 2 PE credits are required by Oak Harbor High School.
Yes, ma'am.
By state.
If they
If
want
it's
to
a
go to
state.
Skagit, do Running Start, and they do Fit for Life here, does that count towards their completion
What
at
is their,
Skagit?
and what would be the end goal being their 2-year college degree?
Through Skagit, yes.
Yeah.
Not through the high school.
I don't have the requirements memorized for earning that 2-year degree. I kind of defer to the college counselor, but I believe there's probably going to be PE credits required. In fact, I know there is, because I have a daughter that's there now.
Okay.
And she's taking PE courses.
But you don't know if Fit for Life would need
It
those
does not.
scheduled?
Does it? No.
No, it does
Okay.
not. Yeah, sorry. What you're saying.
Because that's high school level class.
And that's a
You
great
can't
way
get
to,
hce school classes that apply to college.
that's a
You
great
can
way to
just get
segue
college
if we can,
classes that
because our
apply
time
to
is moving
college.
along. Mr. Hall, we good?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, very, very much. That's a great way to segue into the history, because the only class that we do have at Home Connection which can apply up there would be AP US History. That's a college level course.
Okay.
Next year, AP US History and regular US History Basically, there'll be three options for you. You can take AP US History. Most of the 10th graders right now do that, AP US History. I teach that. That's a college level course. It's, we're 1 month from D-Day, less than a month from the big national exam. The kids are getting pumped and primed, and I'm getting excited and nervous and not sleeping quite as well because that's just a big deal for us, and we're excited about it. It's pump time. In with that is a couple of kids who are taking that class who, after being in it a while, said, you know what, this college course is just not something I can do. It's just beyond me. So they're taking US History with AP US History on a pass-fail basis, and that will certainly be available for students to take next year as well. Possibly even for a grade, but I am going to allow both of those students at the same time in the same room because we really don't have enough kids to have two separate classes for that.
So not online then?
We also offered online this year, and if there are enough kids that are interested in doing that next year, I don't see any reason we can't do that either. There are some advantages in that. There are a lot of online classes that students bump into at the college, so some online experience may be valuable for you and for yours. Okay? 9th grade history, as was mentioned earlier, Mrs. Powers. That is a credit class. That is world history, and that meets that requirement. So briefly, that's history. If there are any questions on that?
As 9th grade world history as a 9th grade?
Yes, that's exactly correct. They also take world history as a 6th and a 7th grader, and they've had Mrs. Powers for those. So by the time they get done with 3 years of world history from her, they better know it, right? Other questions about history? Otherwise, we'll move forward here. So let's take a look at some assessment data. And I'm just going to tell you as we do, the pattern's really pretty clear. I mean, it's just really not very hard to see the pattern. Here's the pattern. I'm just going to give it to you right up front, okay? We have really kind of two groups of kids that enter Home Connection in elementary school. The first group of kids is pretty committed, pretty solid, pretty long-term homeschool families. That's what they do. That's their commitment. As a general rule, not a foolproof rule, not 100%, please, everybody hear me, but as a general rule, as the state has switched assessments 3 times already in the 5 years that we've been there, Mr. Hall is going like this, and that's partly because he's dizzy from it, and he should be, okay? 3 times in our 5 years, the state has switched. And a lot of our, this isn't me, this is what families do. A lot of our committed homeschool families over time have said, you know what, I'm tired of the merry-go-round, I don't want to do that, I'm going to be at point 8, and I'm going to take the Iowa Test of Basic Skills. Okay? That's what they do. And the Iowa Test of Basic Skills on the lower grade levels, those families, we score well. Some of our families that come from a less traditional, they're looking for a solution for their child, and they're willing to jump in with both hands at home to make it happen. They will enter more often as a full-time student. Those kids are looking for something, and oftentimes they will take the state assessment and they will be a full-time student. Our state assessment scores at the elementary level don't look near as good. Look near as well. They're just not as sweet as the Iowa Test of Basic Skills, but really in many ways they reflect 2 different populations. At the middle school level, those 2 groups meld together, and there's this evening out. And our scores at the middle school level, taking into account both of those groups of kids, kind of come out on par with everybody else. At the high school level, this is what consistently happens. Our kids at the end of 10th grade consistently score extremely well. I would say in the last 4 years, 2 of those 4 years, if there's a school in the state that scored as well, as Home Connection kids, then my hat's off to them, because our kids score that. This is not our highest ever, and this is good, okay? But there have been higher years than this, all right? So by the time the kids, our stated purpose once upon a time when parents set this up was, we are pre-running start. We want to save that $50,000 that it takes to go to Western for 2 years as a freshman and sophomore. We want to do that. That's where we're going. That's where we go, okay? 75–80% of our kids the last 2 years have left here, gone there, and done very, very, very well. Very, very successful. We point at that unapologetically. That's what we do. Those were the marching orders that parents and staff set in place once upon a time. Iowa test of basic skills. Again, that's that set group of kids. Some of these kids say, I'm not interested in, and actually you can see some of these right there. That is some of those scores. And you can see how well those kids do.
These are on our website too, if you're ever interested in more data. It's
All on our website, pull it up.
yeah.
Here's 9th and 10th grade ITBS. Usually a fairly small number of group of kids take these. By this time, more of them are thinking, I want to pass that state hurdle in case I want a diploma. So it's not a large group of kids that take the 9th and 10th ITBS, but there's always 2 to 6 to 7, depending on the year. Here's a pre-ACT test, 7th grade. You can see our kids do very well on that. 8th grade equivalent test. You know, a quick look, but you can see our kids do well at that. Called the Explore test. We have since quit giving these, but this is last year's data. Now this is the PSAT, but you notice this compares our 8th and 10th graders with the nation's 11th graders. So we're not talking apples and apples here, all right? And our kids almost score as well, averaging 8th through 10th grade with the nation's 11th graders. And that's just a little blurb there. So part of what we're talking about today is the choice that you face, because it never fails. At this time of year, parents come in and say, what do I do with my kid? Okay, what do I do? You know, they're saying they want to go to Cookville High School, or Oak Harbor High School, or Amherst High School, or South Whitby High School, and we have all of those districts represented here in significant numbers. So when people, most of the time when people say the high school here, they're referring to Oak Harbor High School, but understand that's not the high school for lots of our families. For lots of our families, the high school is someplace else. So that's a choice that you have to make. We just want to make sure that you understand where we are on these things. And I had a parent who wanted to share, and I'm interested in any others. Maybe you have an experience with a child that's already gone through the system. Maybe you want to share. I'm looking around the room to see if there's any parents. Mr. Ross certainly qualifies. Mr. Hall certainly qualifies. They have sent some students to Oak Harbor High School of their own personal children, but the vast majority of their kids, actually for both of them, have stayed at home connection through 10th grade. But both have sent at least one of their children, not to Running Start, but to Oak Harbor High School. Maybe you gentlemen care to share.
I would definitely like to share. Because I'll tell you what, when my wife and I set out to homeschool, we have 5 children that we homeschool. We've all been to home connection at one point or another. But the best piece of advice we could ever be given was directed towards our oldest daughter. And the advice was, look, we know that you and Kelly, my wife and I, have no desire to have our children go to the local high school. And that was true. We were looking at Running Start even back then. But what was told to us was that you may have one set of goals for your children, but the kids have their own set of ideas. As they get older, they may butt heads with you over that. So it's really important that you prepare as if you are gearing towards the local high school, have a plan B. Because if they end up with any kind of connection, whether it be sports, music, a really good friend, they're going to pressure you to go to the high school. And if you haven't done anything in terms of credit accumulation or preparing as if that is the plan, you're going to be in trouble because you're going to have a kid that is now, she even named it, our mentor named it, she said, middle 10th grade, I guarantee you. Middle 10th grade, they're going to come to you and go, thank you, Mom and Dad, for homeschooling me, but I want to go to high school. And they said, if you're lucky, they'll thank you. Ours didn't thank us. But it happened, and it was middle 10th grade, and it was a connection to music. Because, and French, we had lost our French teacher at Home Connection, and she wanted to continue with the French language, so I put her on a short stick, and I allowed her to go to Oak Harbor High School for French and a little bit of music. And then the door went wide open. She's like, I just want to go full time. And so I put her on yet another short lease, waiting for her to mess up with her character or whatever, or get into trouble, but it never happened. And next thing you know, it's like, and because we were forewarned, my wife had actually geared everything, starting at 8th grade, 9th grade, half of 10th grade, all laid out to make sure that what she was doing covered the height and depth of requirements of high school. That was pre-home connection, by the way. That was before we had the opportunity to go to was going before the powers that be at central administration, lots of tears and frustration over the fact that we didn't quite do it right. We had to add one more thing. My wife would come back and she'd be all upset. It's like, they want one more thing added to this science course. I thought we had it covered. But she did that. She saw the importance of it. So back and forth, finally got it approved, on we go. So the biggest, and had we not been told ahead of time that if your child changed their mind or life circumstances happened such that you have to go to Flanders, be prepared. So that is the best advice I can offer to you all. You might be like our family, where we have no intentions of sending our kids to local high school. And that was pre-home connection. I mean, with home connection, there's no questions. Especially the way home connection is set up now, we are solid through grade 10. Solid, solid, solid. We did not have that with our first daughter. So we had to kind of bring in the high school. We were really reluctant to do that, but we brought it in, and we were so extremely thankful that we prepared as if it wasn't our plan, but it was our daughter's plan, and it all worked out with us. And by the way, that, if I could do my homework a little bit, that daughter now has a master's degree in education, and she's on staff here at Home Connection as a kindergarten teacher.
Mr. Ross, care to share? You've been there too.
I just think each child is different. I mean, we had all intentions sending all of our kids to Running Start through this program, but one of my sons wanted to go to the high school, and he enjoyed ROTC and sports and robotics, and there was a lot of offerings up there of elective courses, and that he wasn't as minded as going to four-year college right away. He went to the military after high school too. But 4 of our kids did go through Running Start, and then they transferred to the four-year college, and 3 of them, 2 finished, 1's still in college, and 1's headed to college. But you know, it's really nice to accomplish 2 things at once. You're getting your high school credit done, you're getting your college credit done. And for us, teacher salary, that saves, you got to pay course fees and this and that, but it's not like free, but it's not $10,000 either. We found also that if you get your AA transfer degree, schools are more likely to accept the whole package deal. They did it at the schools I went to. They said, oh wow, you got 90 credits? Okay, 90 credits, you're a junior. Wow. She had to take some school specific requirements at that school she went to, but you know, religious classes, or they have a core class that she had to take. So it's not, she'll finish in 2.5 years and get her education degree, and it's worked really well for us.
So how did that transition into a traditional four-year setting go? When she transfers in as a junior, they're all 19, 20, 21. She's 17 or 18.
Yeah.
How did that work?
That was a question a dad had to me when I sent her to college at Skagit. You know, you're not 35-year-old sailors and your 18-year-old daughter. It's like, oh, it tended to work all right though. They were in classes with people that had life experiences already, and they heard stories about, oh, we did it this way and did it this way, and they kind of had the aha, like, wow, it's so it worked okay. When you hit the four-year college, your major should be pretty well determined. You don't have the 2 years to use as exploratory time, and I don't know, I'm going to study sociology or history, or you're into your core requirements as a junior. So you had to speed things up a little bit, but they were okay. My daughters come back and say they rarely hear of a child telling them, oh, I wish I went 4 years to high school. They're like, you did Running Start 2 years? I wish I did that too. We hear a lot of that. I wish.
You know how many kids walk into the local high school at the end of their senior year and they go, I just got a 2-year full ride scholarship, and everybody runs around and oh, let me see the piece of paper. And 2 years ago it was offered to all of you. You know what? Because 2 years before it was offered to all of them. I want to share one story if I can. A mom wanted to be here but couldn't come. And she said, share my story, please. So, and I'll just tell you who it is. Mrs. Diavola, her daughter's in Running Start. Actually, Running Start isn't limited to Skagit, in case you don't know this. Her daughter's doing Running Start, though she's a Home Connection student all the way through at Shoreline. Basically, mom's story is this. You know, when my kid got to be 8th going to 9th grade, it was, I want to go to the local high school. I want to go to the local high school. Mom basically said, okay, what about after that? Well, then I wanna go to, to Western, okay, that's $50,000 first, where's that $50,000 gonna come from? And whereupon the daughter goes, blah, 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 blah. And the parent goes, well, I'd like you to think about that. I would like to know the answer to that question before we make this decision. Still came down to, I don't know where the money's coming from, but okay, Mom said, no. Pre-running start, what you're gonna do, at this point in time, your father and I need to, that's what we're gonna do, and I know that that's not your choice right now that you'd make given your options, but you're gonna do that, okay? So, several weeks ago, Mom needed the form, as you do, and she couldn't, because they're in Seattle, it's stopped, Mr. Malcolm will come over on the weekend, sure, see you Sunday afternoon, pick up the form, and she's telling us, basically, the daughter is in love with Running Start, so glad Mom said, no, you're good, this is what you're gonna do. Now, everybody has to work it out on their own, but it's not always true that an 8th grader spouts wisdom to you that's always wisdom and is the right choice. Okay, I know that shocks some of you, and I'm not saying that means every kid who says, I don't want to do Running Start, I'm not telling you that. I am saying there's lots of kids who have no idea where that money's going to come from, but for whatever reason they have their mind set up, and as a parent you have to find out a way to deal with that. That parent's way was no. No. The answer is no. We all have to answer that. It's different for different kids.
Okay, but I'm so monkey in the
Go
wrench.
ahead, please do.
I'm the monkey in the wrench mom.
Please do. Nothing wrong with that.
I have a high school, Oak Harbor High School graduate from last year, one of Danny and Steven's friends. And he loved his high school experience. Graduated 3.7 GPA, 7 AP classes. His route's been a little different right now, but when he entered into college as a freshman, and when he will transfer this fall to a different college, but he transferred in because of his AP courses and passing the number of AP exams. He transferred in as a sophomore. So he did not do that 2 year, he did not do Running Start, he didn't have his AA degree, but he did a different route, and he still, he did walk in with some college done. So don't think that that's the only thing to get your head south a little bit ahead in college also. There are other ways to do that too. He wanted that whole high school experience. That was important to him. And to this day, asking him now, almost a year out, it has still remained important to him. And he is happy that he did it that way, although he does see some financial benefits of doing it a different way. But you should just be ready to explore all of your options and know what kind of kid you have.
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback off of her, my daughter's 11th grade. She's taking 2 years AP courses at the high school, and next year she's going to do Running Start for her senior year. She didn't want to before. She wasn't ready for the whole college thing.
So she'll have a different experience even more in that she won't have her AA degree by the time she's done.
But
she'll have some of it done, probably very similar to my high schooler, but not the whole 2 years done, not that AA degree that does, puts you in as a junior to many colleges.
But every little bit helps.
I think the other thing to think about too is that when you do whatever route you do, you're looking at the colleges. There are some colleges who aren't all going to accept every credit that Skagit offers. There are some private schools who will not always see it as, apples and apples of what they're offering. So I think some of it it's confusing and
I think that Mr. Ross and Mr. Hall would concur with me. To be honest, I think the best way to make sure that your credits transfer and are taken is to walk in there with that 2 year degree.
Yes, I believe so.
The best way to lose classes is to walk in with a partial year or 1 year, or when you've got to do your transfer degree, your chances of walking into that college and them saying, dong, you are a junior, are just that much higher. So, lots of different perspectives, lots of different kids. Chew on your own, visit with your advisor, visit with friends. That's what this meeting is for, to hear different perspectives, to help you wade through it, because you know what? You make the call of you're it. You have to work it out in your family. I don't have to for you. We're going to dismiss this meeting right now, and thank you for coming. We're going to offer you the high school and beyond video in case you want to stay and watch it. Not expected. Lots of good information there, especially if you're pretty convinced Running Start is something you want to do or want to look at. Mr. Ross is also available on our website, correct?
What is?
The high school and beyond video.
Yeah, that's free access.
Right. So just so you know, it's available there, but sometimes it's just easier to stay and watch it too, and then if you have questions, you can ask them. So if you'd like to stay, if you'd like to go, we appreciate you coming. Thank you so much for your kind attendance. Have a good rest of the day.